Folks have all spent a fair amount of time campaigning. Is there a burning issue? Is there one issue that you hear about more than other issues from
Economy.
the economy? Is that
Jobs,
just
the economy.
the obvious big issue
Oh,
or
yeah.
issues?
Yeah, we're a small state. We have basically the same infrastructure that you would find in New Hampshire, but they have twice the population to fund it. So, it's a little bit tighter budget in the state of Vermont, to pay for what we need. And people just, the jobs aren't there, the economy's gone, the value of your property's gone down, but your taxes are still up there. The resale is, houses just aren't selling, so the economy is just at a stalemate right now.
And as a legislator, can the Vermont legislature, you'd be one of 180 if you get elected. Can the legislature, a lot of this is national, maybe global issues out there. Can this be turned around? What can you do down there if you get back there?
Well, first of all, we got to figure out how to create jobs. We've got to revamp. I'm sure you've heard from everybody else that's been here already. You've got to revamp the permit process. You've got to you're going to have to give tax breaks to corporations to come in here, because they can go to New York State, they can go south, they can just about any other place in the country and produce product, for a lot less than you can in Vermont. So you're going to have to cut taxes and everything, so these corporations, even small corporations or large, but you've got to entice them to come back to Vermont and keep the ones we have.
Can you cut again the figure? I guess it's somewhere between about 110, 120 million projected surplus for fiscal year 2012.
It's going to be tough. I think you've got to. You're going to have to cut the size of state government. And I'm not for laying anybody off, but by normal attrition, others are going to have to pick up some of the work that's being done by people that are leaving. It's just, you can't spend more than you're taking in. You just can't do it.
Dick, you want to continue on that? Again, you're hearing the saying jobs economy, is that
Yes, definitely. The work, well, there just isn't there. And I believe there's well, take the ski and recreation facility, for instance. We've cut back on the rest areas, and people will use New Hampshire as a model and say, well, our rest areas, we waste a lot of money in these concrete images that we place out there that have been there for a number of years. Actually, in some of the amenities that we have in our rest areas, I think it's redundant. New Hampshire doesn't utilize this approach. And for instance, we're near the Canadian border. On a Canadian holiday, we have the rest areas closed at 6:30 or 7, and some have indicated on a Canadian holiday, why can't we extend those hours, at least for the long holiday? To our friends to the north, I'm not sure the amount of work that this will generate, but there's some jobs available, as Ron was just mentioning, if we can have a comprehensive permit if you want to build. And I'm familiar, when we worked in Massachusetts, you had a comprehensive permit which allowed you to go forth. And we know there's certain terminals, for instance, the Conservation Law Foundation are obstructionists in many of our permit process. And I believe as soon as we just allow them to go through regional planning and not become part of our court system and can block the job, I think that we'd have more work immediately.
I know you call yourself a blue dog Democrat, a conservative Democrat.
There's only 8 of us now, and one time we had at least 20.
Is that right? Down to 8
so when it came to budget days, or when they were presenting their dream ship, we could put some smaller sails on it. And I'm not sure whether we can tell after the election whether there's going to be we'll have a voice. It made a lot of difference when they were out there on certain, not on social programs, but some of the frills and some of they're involved with the packages. Yeah. But jobs, the economy, and public safety. We'll get into this a little later
Okay.
in the rural areas.
Lynn Dickinson, you served on House Commerce Committee your first session, obviously issues you dealt with quite a bit, but again, you're hearing the same thing, jobs, economy, is that the biggie out there?
The biggie is the jobs and the economy. I mean, the economy and job growth, job creation. One of the things that I did is I co-signed on to the attempts to go and change the permitting laws that ended up staying on the wall. They were not taken up by the majority. They dealt with things like the de novo hearings in the appeals process and certification of people, a variety of different things that other people have raised as far as streamlining the permitting. One of the things that came out of Commerce is that we had a Committee for the Future of Economic Development, and they had 4 basic issues that they raised. But one of them was that for a state of our size, we're a small state, we should be very nimble, we should be able to be adaptable. And what we have instead is that we are not that way. We really are very much sort of sclerotic. It's like we have cholesterol in our veins and it's just blocking any action. And the Walmart issue, the Cirque Highway, there's any number of examples of that. The other thing is that we have a great workforce. We have successful, resourceful people who are entrepreneurs. We create new businesses, whether it's Ben & Jerry's or IDX or, Burton Snowboards and all of this. But we have to have policies that encourage these entrepreneurs to both stay here and to grow here so that we don't have them leave. And our policies are often not really conducive to that. Tax policies, other things. We have a thing called the VEGI, the Vermont Economic Policy Council, which is the VEPSI Council, which has actually a couple of people from Franklin County on it. They have a thing called the VEGI. This is not a tax credit. This is a rebate that's given to businesses if they have a certain number of new employees or expand, if they pay them a certain wage, provide certain benefits, and then if they do that and prove that they have actually done that and have paid into the state the money that those salaries will create for the state as revenue, we then give them a grant back as a VEGI grant. One of the things that Governor Douglas asked for, actually we voted on it because we had several companies that wanted to take advantage of this, and we raised the limit on it. I think it had a $10 million limit per year. And the governor asked for that to be taken out completely. We didn't take it out completely, but we did raise it for some of these companies that were coming in. But the economy and the job growth and the policies that we have that encourage this and make it easier for people to grow is really one of the issues that we dealt with.
Todd, what about on the campaign trail? What are you hearing out there?
Well, ditto. I mean, it's jobs, it's taxes. People are feeling a bit burdened, particularly by property taxes, which are regressive and unfair, particularly for lower and middle income people, which certainly we have a lot of folks who aren't making big bucks in Franklin County, so they're really feeling the pinch there. And I think that what's interesting is when I hear people talking about solutions, always the focus is on what can we do for business to try to create jobs, but we kind of seem to forget that really, the trickle-down type stuff really hasn't worked over the last 30 years. What we really need is something bubbling up from the working families and from the people down there who are really going to be generating the demand. One of the problems that we face is not that there's no money to create jobs. I mean, the Fortune 500 companies are sitting on $1.8 trillion of cash that they're not spending and not investing in their businesses and not spending on creating jobs because there's no demand, because people don't have any money. And it's the people who actually fuel the economy. 2/3 of our economy is consumer spending, and most of that is people in the lower and middle income kind of ranges there. So what we really need to be doing is giving them tax relief, particularly on regressive taxes like property taxes, but tax relief in general, and then help them do other things through providing the human services that they require rather than trying to cut back. We should be investing more because that's also stimulative and sets us up for long-term success, much like what Governor Snelling did. We'll preserve the social contract, find new revenue streams to shore all that up. That will create the groundswell of demand then. And then if we want to target small businesses, which are the real jobs engines in Vermont in particular, but nationwide, then have targeted kinds of incentives that will be tied directly to job creation, long-term job creation, rather than just across-the-board tax cuts. George Bush's Secretary of Treasury, who was former CEO of Alcoa, said, "I never made any business decisions based on tax code." And really, it's only like 1.2% of the cost of doing business. So we're tinkering in the margins there rather than getting the biggest bang for our buck by trying to help people bubble up the economy and really support it from below where it all comes from.